2023, May. Yes, welcome to my first YouTube video. It's a review, plus an update to what I've been doing in terms of reconfiguring my PC. Unfortunately, the original video that I wanted to take, or planned video that I had about a year or maybe a year and a half ago, which would be an AM5 system, it just didn't come into fruition. Lives Matters came into the way, which is number one. But I'm hoping as a first video that I hope I can benefit anyone who's into the hobby of PC building, or if this is your first time building a PC. In this video I plan to run through all the ins and outs of this beautiful mini case. So this case is called the Lian Li TU150, and I picked up this case about two and a half years ago when it was released. So this is not the newest and the greatest mini PC case by no means. There's been a lot of other cases that's been out there, but as you can see, this is definitely not AM5. I'm really hoping in the future I can make a AM5 system, mini ITX system. But hey, I just had to do what I had to do to make things work. So I just want to run you through my specs and what I have going on here, which most of you will probably be really surprised at what I'm currently running. So I have brought up my little flashlight here. Forgive the lighting. I don't have a professional studio, unfortunately, but let's make it work. Okay, so in terms of hardware, so if you can see that, hopefully you guys can see that, I currently have I currently have two Noctua Chromox 125 mil fans, and they do an admirable job in cooling not only PC cases but the hardware inside. And also, if you could connect this to a cooler, you will get even more performance. So I currently have three of them. So I have one as an intake and two on the bottom. So please don't laugh at this configuration. So this is the MSI RX 550. Yes, my friends, this is a 5-year-old graphics card, and unfortunately I had to sell my 3090 RTX 3090 about a month ago, which really pained me. So you can see this is what I'm currently running, and I'm still appreciative towards the hardware I have because it's letting me do my ins and outs of basic PC internet surfing, emailing, and watching YouTube videos, and being able to play games at very low settings. You'll be surprised. This little card, for a 5-year-old card, can actually play not the AAA games, but it can play most of the stuff that's been released about, I would say, the last four years. And as long as you keep the settings low and the resolution low. So I currently have this card set below 1080p and getting over 60 frames per second. I'm using a Asus monitor. It's on the other side. Sorry, you guys can see that. Using an Asus monitor to run this PC. And yes, that hardware is also not the latest and greatest, but it's a 144 hertz IPS panel that I picked up 6 years ago, roughly about. And yeah, so it's been running games great. It's been letting me do my daily tasks with no hiccups. And so you guys are going to be surprised at the motherboard. So I'm actually running a X99. Yes, you guys, some of you guys are probably laughing by now, but it's okay. X99. Uh, this is an ASRock X99 Mini ITX Wi-Fi AC uh, motherboard that I also picked up 6 years ago. So running an Intel processor that's a 6 core. By no means is this processor. This is the Broadwell chipset. By no means is it an energy efficient CPU compared to what's out now with the new Intel chips and the new Ryzen chips. You'll be getting way more performance than this, but you'll be surprised. This processor actually can run a decent amount of games. Also in between the range, I would say, of 3 years ago to 5 years ago. Never had any problem with that processor, but I do want to swap out all of this hardware. The only thing about this motherboard is that because the Broadwell socket, it's the Intel 2011 V3 socket. It's really large for this motherboard. So what ASRock did, they actually configured the sockets in a very narrowish socket. And there's not many coolers that can actually cool the CPU. An Intel CPU that you might be planning to use that motherboard with. Fortunately, Noctua has a very small, narrow CPU cooler that actually works and it's compatible. But with this motherboard, ASRock actually included a specialized heatsink, which is kind of like a server heatsink, which was really gracious of them, because nowadays, how many companies will actually include a heatsink? I mean, nowadays you have to pay for performance. So in the beginning, I was actually using the Dynatron CPU cooler, but I did a lot of research with if I could get better cooling, make it a little bit more quieter. And I did. So fortunately, Noctua was the company for me, and that cooler has been running strong for over 6 years. Never had an issue with it. The thermals have been pretty much the same, even in the hot temperatures. By the way, guys, I'm living currently in Osaka, Japan. So yes, it gets really hot here in the summer. So right now is May, beginning of May. By next month, things should start heating up. So I would say if any of you guys are thinking of coming to Japan and you're into PC building, it's a good bench test area, especially Osaka area, because you can really get some really hot thermals. But I think you guys know what I mean by that. Me personally, I like to keep things as cool as possible in terms of my PC and my daily life. And yes, so these Noctua fans, the Chromax Black, they have been doing their job. And yes, I also have one on the back, but it's like a slim. Actually, I have one idea. Why am I showing it to you through the glass? I didn't think of this before. Just one moment, guys. Oh, Victor. Oh, this is much better. So now you guys can have a better visualization of what I've been doing with this PC for the past 6 years. So yeah, I hope you guys can see it. So there's the Noctua cooler, the brown and beige that some people hate, some people love. I actually don't mind it, because I'm getting a lot of performance out of Noctua products, so I'm always happy about that. And there's the Chromax fans, 125 millimeters, and PWM, of course. These fans go up to about 2,000 RPM, and and which is good. And so do the Noctua small. These are like 90 millimeter fans, and they also go to like 2000 RPM. There you can see the ASRock board. I don't know if you guys can see the logo, but yep, it's an ASRock board with blue heat sinks. Believe it or not, I'm still running a hard drive, which is I've been running this hard drive for the past 6 years, which is unbelievable. It still hasn't failed, but yeah, SSDs in Japan are quite expensive. So that's one of the well, PC parts in general. So if you guys ever think of coming to Japan and buying PC parts out of mom and pop stores, please be mindful of the prices here, especially the taxes. It's best to buy your parts on Amazon, and yes, you'll get a lot of discounts compared to the walk-in brick and mortar stores that they still run out here in Japan. But yes, so you can see the back of this. So we got some pretty interesting things here. So you can see there is, surprisingly, this motherboard actually has two Intel NICs. So these are 1 gigabit NICs, and the turquoise USBs. Let me see. Where's my finger? Yeah, the turquoise USBs. This is the introduction to USB 3.1. So I don't know if you guys can see that. And then these other four are regular USB 3.0. This also comes with Wi-Fi, but I didn't connect the Wi-Fi antennas to this. And can you believe it? Now, does that look familiar to you guys? That is eSATA. And I have never used eSATA in my life, but this was the end of eSATA, I would say. Because after x99 was x299. So that's when they started really trying to focus more on other forms of connectivity. And it also comes with a old school legacy keyboard and mouse jack and two USBs. And yeah, and then surprisingly, this motherboard actually has a full suite of audio connections, which is pretty cool. So I just want to show you the back of this now that I'm on the back. So you can see like this is a 3-slot mini PC case, and so this case can actually fit the new RTX 3-slot cards. The only caveat to that is you won't be able to have fans on the bottom. The only way you'll be able to have fans on the bottom, well, at least normal 25 millimeter stick fans, is if you have a 2-slot card like what this RX 550 is. It's recommended not to use any fans if you have a 3-slot GPU, because, well, there's no space for it, as you see. So basically the 3rd slot is going to be most of the fan shroud, and so you can see what exactly is going to happen in terms of space efficiency. Now, surprisingly, it still works very well. So even though I would rather I wish that the case was a little bit taller, but then after I rebuilt this case, I was thinking, you know what, it's actually perfect the way it is. And so you just got to be mindful with what type of parts you stick in the TU150. This case is more focused on air cooling. Water cooling just pretty much doesn't work. It doesn't work very well on this case. One of the reasons being is because they don't have enough mounts in certain positions for the builder to run their tubing, and it gets very cramped in this case, like very fast once you start uh, building it from the building your build from the bottom up. And as you can see, I'm running a Corsair SF750 with modular sleeved cables, which are pretty nice, and they work very well. Did have a problem with the length of some of the cables. Um, the only thing I don't like about these braided cables is that the braiding is a little bit too stiff. So if you try to bend it, you're gonna find that you have to keep uh, massaging the cable to the bends or the points of contact where you want them to go, which is what I had to do. Plus, this case, it's advised that you have zip ties. So with this case, Lian Li did provide about, I think it was about 10 zip ties, plastic zip ties. And everything just worked perfectly. I actually used pretty much every single zip tie, and it worked out really great. And so this is the front. Yeah, so this is the intake. And what I'm going to do, I'm going to set the camera down, because I forgot to do this off camera. So, all right. Here I am. Yep. This case also comes with a dust filter in the front only. Yes. And I can actually see this dust filter is doing its job because I see dust already. So thank you, Lian Li, for that. And this is the I/O. This case also comes with the USB 3.1. And so we got power, USB 3.1, two USB 3.0s, audio headphone jack, which is pretty rare nowadays because now a lot of companies are combining their audio solutions in one, which I think is a good solution because it takes up less real estate on the chassis. And then we have a reset button, which is also very rare for Mini ITX. What I like about this case, and why did I rebuild all this old hardware into the TU150, is because the portability. Now, really cool. This thing actually retracts and extends. It's magnetic on the bottom, so it's not going to pop out. This is actually made of aluminum, and the top panels are made of aluminum. They come out really easy. For instance, if I pop it off, you can see. Can't try to do this with one hand. Okay, oh, there we go. So panels just pop off because they're on pegs, and they slot into the little holes around. So like this is the top panel. You can see you can actually do some cable management. Like there's not much space, mind you, but you know, if you take your time and you start routing all your cables, you can see that it does work, and it does work pretty well as long as you put the time and effort into your cable management. Okay, so let's go around the side and you can see my other cable management. Sorry guys, I need to turn this around. Oh, it's pretty heavy for a small case. Okay, the side panel comes off just as easy. This is a vent for the PSU of the SF 750, so exhaust. This case also, I forgot to mention, it actually supports SFXL, so that's going to be the largest PSU you'll be able to fit in the TU150. So you can see my cable management over here. I use a lot of zip ties, and unfortunately the motherboard that I'm currently running, the ancient motherboard I'm currently running, doesn't come with a USB oh, I can't get out, a USB 3.1 cable. So this is the USB 3.1 header. So what I did, because my motherboard doesn't have USB 3.1 on board, I just tucked it away and saved it for the time when I do build AM5 or Intel moving forward. And so you can see there's not much space back here also, mind you, so you have to be very mindful with how you or zip tie certain cables. So what I found about this case was that the PSU, no problem, but you do have to be mindful of this area, because there's a screw over here that you would have to move the cables out of the way that come from the I/O and into the motherboard area. So you would have to do a lot of shimmying, so to speak, and things will work out as long as you don't rush. Everything works out great. And so yes, the only thing I really don't like is the way they oriented the PSU. So what this case actually does, because the PSU can only be inserted on the inside, what Lian Li thought of doing was they extended in the PSU cable. And you can see it comes all the way on the top of the roof, and it's in the back. So the cable that came with your PSU would have to be connected out here, going into your wall socket, which is pretty tidy. So going back to what I originally wanted to say, the only thing I really don't like, I don't know if you guys can see, hopefully it's not too dark, sorry guys, is this Lian Li's cable over here. Well, it's not so much the cable's fault, but I actually had to bend the PSU cable, the extension cable, in this kind of U-shaped, which I'm kind of a little bit uneasy about. Reason being because, you know, don't want any fires starting or anything like that. Maybe I'm paranoid about that, but just the way I am. So yeah, so you will have to be doing a lot of like shimmying when you get your PSU inside this case, because everything does work. Again, as long as you take your time and you route your cables. So I pretty much used almost every zip tie area. So I probably didn't use I didn't use 2 of them. So this case comes with, let me see, so there's 1, 2, 3, 4. So in the back it comes with 4 zip tie locations, and on the top, believe it or not, they actually have locations. I don't know if you guys can see it. So there's one over here and one over here only. So there's 1, there's 2, and you'll be surprised that the hard drive gets mounted above the motherboard, which is kind of unique, because also what Lian Li thought of is we're gonna hide the hard drive or the SSD. That also fits an SSD on the top as well. And so this case also comes with a tempered side panel. I mean, hey, you gotta have your tempered side panel, which is really nice. It's actually clear. It's not really tinted. So I don't know if you guys can see this, but Lian Li thought of a way to hide actually the hard drive, which will be in this area, and the PSU area over here, by just putting a metal sheet on the back behind the frame of the glass, the tempered glass, and looks really good. I would say if you're able to have RGB in this case, it would be really looking really sweet. And also you can actually stick only a SSD in this area. So yeah, really nice. I would say this is probably one of the best mini 3-slot ITX cases that it is a little old, but with all the mini ITX that are out right now, especially with all the power behind the new chipsets from AM5 to Intel, I would say now is a good time to build a small ITX build, especially if you're always traveling like me. You can just take a case like this, comes out with the extendable handle, and this is really sturdy. Like, this handle is actually built into the frame. I don't know if you guys can see. It's actually screwed in there really sturdily, and there's no cheap plastic on this. This is pretty much all metal. I would say this is metal, like the actual frame itself. And the magnet is really strong, so the handle always stays in there unless you really need some force for it to pop back out. So yeah, and that is the TU150. So I hope you like my first video. Unfortunately, I am so sorry for not being able to do the build that I wanted to do due to life problems. But I hope all you guys have a great day. You enjoyed my first video, and who knows, maybe in the future we will be seeing this case with some modernish hardware. So yeah, if any of you are into mini PC builds, please check this out. It's a great case. It's built really sturdily, not so expensive. Again, it's the Lian Li TU150, and you can find it on Amazon. And this case comes in, I forgot to mention, the colors come in silver, and it comes in black. So I chose black because my original plan was to buy an Asus AM5 mini ITX motherboard, and just plop that in here with RGB, and then you have a really sweet, like, portable case. And so yes, thank you for watching my video. And if you have any questions about any of the parts that I mentioned here today, please leave comments, or any concerns that you have about video quality. I hope you guys could hear my voice well. I'm looking forward to meeting you guys again. And thanks for dropping by, and take care, and see you in my next video.